In 2015, a young CEO stood on stage at a conference, wearing a black turtleneck, speaking with unwavering confidence about revolutionary blood testing technology. Her hands barely moved. Her blink rate was abnormally low. And investors poured in $700 million. Her name was Elizabeth Holmes, and experts in nonverbal communication now study the footage as a masterclass in controlled deception. Here's what they missed, and what you need to see. There's a phenomenon in psychology called behavioral rigidity. When most people lie, they don't fidget more, they fidget less. The common belief is that liars give themselves away through nervous movements, touching their face, shifting in their seat, avoiding eye contact. But research from UCLA's Department of Psychology shows the opposite is often true. When someone is fabricating a story, especially a complex one, their cognitive load increases dramatically. The brain is working overtime to construct a believable narrative, monitor the listener's reactions, and suppress the truth simultaneously. This leaves fewer mental resources for natural body movement. The result? An eerie stillness. Paul Ekman, the psychologist who pioneered the study of microexpressions, and whose work inspired the TV show Lie to Me, documented this in his research on deception detection. He found that practiced deceivers often over-control their behavior. They rehearse not just their words, but their physical presentation. Think about the last time you were genuinely excited about something. Maybe a vacation you'd just booked, or a restaurant you'd discovered. When you told someone about it, your hands probably moved, your eyebrows raised, your voice pitch varied, you leaned forward. These are called illustrators in body language research. Gestures that naturally punctuate speech. But when someone is delivering a memorized pitch, especially one built on shaky foundations, those illustrators often disappear. The delivery becomes smooth. Too smooth. This is your first red flag. Not the fidgeting, the lack of it. When someone is asking for your money, and they look like they're delivering a TED Talk they've practiced 50 times in the mirror, your pattern recognition should activate. Because genuine belief in an idea doesn't need that much rehearsal. Passion is messy. Truth is animated. And when neither is present, something worth hundreds of millions of dollars might be built on sand. Elizabeth Holmes founded Theranos in 2003 at age 19. By 2014, the company was valued at $9 billion. The promise was revolutionary. A single drop of blood could run hundreds of tests. The reality was fraud. But here's what's fascinating from a psychological perspective. Holmes didn't just deceive with words. She engineered her entire physical presence. She adopted the black turtleneck uniform of Steve Jobs. She lowered her voice to an unnaturally deep register, which former employees and recordings later revealed wasn't her natural speaking voice. And in interviews and presentations, she perfected what body language experts call the predator stare. Prolonged, unblinking eye contact that most people find unsettling. Journalists who interviewed her noted something strange. She would hold eye contact for uncomfortably long periods without breaking. Her blink rate was significantly below the normal range of 15 to 20 blinks per minute. In one interview that body language analysts have since dissected, she blinked only 7 times in 60 seconds while discussing the technology. This is behavioral overcompensation. Research published in the Journal of Nonverbal Behavior shows that when people know that liars avoid eye contact, sophisticated deceivers do the opposite. They maintain too much eye contact. They overcorrect. The Walgreens partnership announcement in 2013 was a turning point. Theranos devices were to be installed in Walgreens stores across America. Holmes appeared on stages alongside powerful men, former secretaries of state, military generals, billionaire investors, and in nearly every appearance, her hands remained at her sides or clasped in front of her. Minimal gesturing, minimal variation. The pitch was identical, delivered with mechanical precision. By 2015, journalist John Kerry Rue began investigating. By 2018, Theranos dissolved. Holmes was convicted of fraud in 2022. The investors who missed the signs? They lost hundreds of millions. Because they listened to the words and ignored the body. In Morgan Housel's book, The Psychology of Money, he writes about the seduction of storytelling in finance. The best frauds aren't sold with spreadsheets, they're sold with confidence. And confidence, when manufactured, leaves traces your instincts can detect, if you know where to look. Paul Ekman spent 5 decades researching facial expressions. His fundamental discovery: There are 7 universal emotions that flash across human faces regardless of culture: happiness, sadness, fear, disgust, anger, surprise, contempt. And each one appears in micro-expressions that last between 1/15th and 1/5 of a second. These micro-expressions are involuntary. They leak through, even when someone is trying to mask their true feelings. Ekman's research, documented extensively in his book Emotions Revealed, showed that trained observers could identify these flashes of genuine emotion and spot incongruence between what someone says and what they feel. Here's where it connects to money. In investment contexts, contempt is the micro-expression that matters most. Contempt appears as a slight raising of one corner of the mouth, a unilateral smirk, and research shows it's strongly associated with feelings of superiority and moral disengagement. When someone asking for your investment flashes contempt, even for a fraction of a second, they're revealing something. They don't see you as an equal partner. They see you as a mark. A study from the University of California, San Francisco, examined videos of CEOs during earnings calls. Researchers found that micro-expressions of contempt and disgust correlated with subsequent downward revisions in guidance and, in some cases, accounting irregularities. The facial leakage preceded the revealed problems by months. Another key signal is what Ekman called duping delight, a slight smile or smirk that flashes when a deceiver believes they're successfully fooling someone. It's a micro-expression of pleasure at getting away with the lie. Footage of Bernie Madoff, who orchestrated a $65 billion Ponzi scheme, shows these flashes in interviews from the 2000s. Hindsight makes them obvious, but even in real time, trained observers noted inappropriate affect, emotional expressions that didn't match the context. The challenge is that most people don't watch for these signals. We listen to words, we look at PowerPoint slides, we evaluate credentials, but as Daniel Kahneman explains in Thinking Fast and Slow, our System 1 thinking, the fast, intuitive part of our brain, processes nonverbal information constantly. We get gut feelings about people. The problem is, we override those feelings when the pitch sounds good. The investors who avoided Theranos? Some of them later admitted they had an uneasy feeling, but they couldn't articulate why. And they invested anyway, because the story was too compelling. Your instincts speak in feelings, not spreadsheets. Learning to listen is worth more than an MBA. Here's the twist. Not all behavioral control signals deception. Some of the world's most successful investors and entrepreneurs deliberately manage their body language. And it's not manipulation, it's strategic communication. Warren Buffett has mastered a folksy, relaxed presentation style. But watch closely. His hand gestures are deliberate. His anecdotes are rehearsed. He controls his image carefully, while maintaining what feels like authenticity. The difference? Congruence. When someone's words, vocal tone, and body language all align, the brain registers authenticity. When there's incongruence, when the words say one thing, but the body says another, alarm bells should ring. Research from Albert Mehrabian's studies at UCLA in the 1970s showed that when verbal and nonverbal messages conflict, people overwhelmingly trust the nonverbal. This is why a CEO saying everything is fine, while their shoulders are tense and their jaw is clenched, doesn't reassure anyone. The best business communicators use body language to reinforce their message. Open palm gestures signal transparency. Leaning forward shows engagement. Varied vocal tone maintains attention. These aren't deceptive. They're effective communication. Consider how venture capitalists themselves use body language in pitch meetings. VCs are trained to maintain neutral expressions to avoid giving away their interest level. This is strategic, not deceptive. They're creating negotiating advantage. The ethical line is intent. Are you using body language to enhance a truthful message, or to mask a false one? One is communication, the other is fraud. In his book Influence, Robert Cialdini discusses the principle of authority. We trust people who appear confident and credible. This is why uniforms, titles, and body language matter. They're social shortcuts. The problem is that con artists exploit these same shortcuts. They dress like success. They speak like authority. They move like confidence. And we're hardwired to defer to these signals. The investors who funded Theranos weren't stupid. They were human. Holmes had former secretaries of state on her board. She spoke at conferences alongside Nobel laureates. The social proof was overwhelming, and her controlled body language reinforced the illusion of competence. The lesson isn't to distrust everyone with good posture. It's to calibrate your bullshit detector to look for incongruence. Does the body language match the circumstances? If someone's describing revolutionary technology that could save millions of lives, should they look like they're reciting multiplication tables? Probably not. Genuine passion leaks through control. And when it doesn't, you should wonder why. So how do you actually apply this? You're not going to become a trained micro-expression reader overnight, but you can sharpen your awareness. First, record your gut reactions. Before an investment decision, a business partnership, or a major purchase, pause and ask yourself, how do I feel about this person? Write it down before you rationalize it away. Research shows that initial instincts often detect incongruence that conscious analysis misses. Your System 1 thinking picks up on micro-signals. Don't ignore it. Second, watch for over-rehearsal. If someone's pitch is too polished, too identical across multiple presentations, it's been optimized for persuasion, not truth. Genuine innovators evolve their pitch as they learn. Con artists perfect it and repeat it. Third, look for baseline behavior. Before the pitch starts, how does this person act in casual conversation? Are they animated? Do they gesture? Then watch what happens when money enters the conversation. Do they freeze up? Does the personality change? That shift is your signal. Fourth, pay attention to incongruence. Listen to the words, but watch the face. If someone's describing an exciting opportunity while their facial expression remains flat, that's a mismatch. If they're claiming confidence while their hands are gripping the podium, that's incongruence. Your brain will notice. Don't rationalize it away. Fifth, slow down. No. The best cons rely on urgency. This opportunity won't last. Other investors are ready to jump in. We need a decision today. Pressure is the enemy of discernment. Any legitimate investment can wait for due diligence. And if it can't, that's your answer. Remember the opening. Elizabeth Holmes stood on stages for years before investigative journalism unraveled Theranos. But the signs were there in every appearance. The unnatural stillness, the rehearsed responses, the over-controlled presentation. Some investors saw it. Most didn't, because they were listening to the promise instead of watching the person. In The Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel writes that the biggest financial risks aren't market crashes. They're the stories we tell ourselves, the narratives that sound so good we stop asking questions. Body language is your pattern interrupt. It's the signal beneath the story. Learn to read it, and you'll avoid more catastrophic decisions than any spreadsheet ever could. The next time someone asks for your money, don't just listen to their pitch. Watch how they deliver it. Because in the gap between what they say and how they say it, the truth is waiting. And it's worth far more than whatever they're selling. If this changed how you'll evaluate pitches, hit subscribe. We're decoding the psychology behind every financial decision. Next video. Why the most confident investors are often the most wrong. See you there.